This is Ty A.K. the Flip Man, and welcome to this week's Flipinar. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. I had to rig this up so it's not going to be the same quality if you were logged on to the actual Flipinar through any meeting. But I welcome everyone. I won't be able to comment on Facebook or YouTube be too much. But again, I welcome everyone on the any meeting platform, on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. If you're not aware who I am the Flip Man. I have a YouTube channel. I have over 200 videos there that give just raw information about wholesaling houses and how you can do so, and really wholesaling real estate and how you can do so without any cash or credit. That's the name of the game. So hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties. We'll be able to flow right through. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome YouTube Live and Facebook Live to this week's Flipinar with the Flip Man. So let's go ahead and let me share my screen. Boom. There we go. Let's get to the beginning of it. All right. So tonight's topic, how to wholesale apartments with no cash or credit. Yes, everybody knows that you can do it with houses. Everyone knows that you can do it with even mobile homes. But, you start to get into the commercial realm when you start talking about apartments. And I'm going to go through some of the basics of doing just that and what some of the differences are compared to houses. Again, if you're not familiar with my platform and the process here, hello, Shanice in DC. Not familiar with the process here. We basically, I tell you a little bit about me and how I got started, a few other things, and have some house cleaning about some of the other things that I've offered through my YouTube channel and other platforms. But hopefully I'm not having any issues on Facebook Live and or YouTube Live, but we're here. I rigged it up. So we're going to roll with it. So I'll keep announcing the YouTube Live and the Facebook Live because some people come on like, what is this guy? Who is this guy? So I'll keep reiterating that throughout the actual Flipinar. So tonight's topic, again, how to wholesale apartments with no cash or credit. All right, before we get started, do a little house cleaning. Suggest about attorney. Obviously, you're not going to make $10,000 if you don't do anything. Most people understand that, so we don't have to actually go through that. Again, so that's just a simple disclaimer. Don't let me forget, I'll give away 2 free courses at the end of this Flipinar. I'll choose a call-in participant and a chat room participant, someone that's logged on. So don't let me forget after the question and answer period. Having an apartment, I'm talking about apartments tonight. Have this apartment building in the Ohio area. You want to download more information about it, go to apartmentsforsale.net. That's APTS. forsale.com, apartments abbreviated. So that's APTS. That's A as in Apple, P as in Paul, T as in Tom, S as in Sam, forsale.net, apartmentsforsale.net. I'm offering a $10,750 finder's fee for a buyer. This just became available today. I doubt this will last long, but I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Hello, Taylor in Miami. All right. If you're not aware, again, if this is the first time you're ever coming across me, I would challenge you to find someone that has more free content, more useful actual stuff that you can put into motion and actually make money from than I do on the topic of wholesaling houses through my YouTube channel. Over 200 videos. If I'm talking about a particular topic, I'm going to tell you what I know about it. So you can access that at flipman.net. Just do a search for the Flipman on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications so you can get immediate alerts when I upload new videos, new tutorials, and actually when I go live on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, flipman.net. Follow me on Twitter, TheFlipMan. You see the handles here. Again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on the notifications. If you want a free copy of the one-page contract that I have used for the last 14 years and continue to use, you can access those. You can access that contract by simply texting the word contract to 313131. That's contract to 313131. Do not text me, text the number 313131. No area code is needed. Treat it just as you would as a phone number and text the word contract. I actually talked to a young lady tonight. She's considering bringing me to her town for coaching. So that is an option. People ask for it. I'll make it available. So just text me on the fee on what it would cost, and I'll be happy to do that. You see my phone number here on the screen. If you are interested in wholesale and commercial real estate, which we'll get into apartments, but I'm talking about triple net single tenant buildings, you can go to flipthisbuilding.com, flipthisbuilding.com, low competition, virtually, you can do it virtually, sitting at your laptop, PC, a sea of opportunity because you can target the entire country, no cash or credit needed, big fat paydays, flipthisbuilding.com. You need a private money list. The name speaks for itself, privatemoneylist.net, 400 private money lenders being added, and it also includes a bonus of 40,000 cash buyers nationwide. My goal here tonight, again, if you've never heard of me and never heard of wholesaling houses, my goal here tonight, whether you're involved in real estate already or this is your first introduction, my goal here tonight is to introduce you to the method of wholesaling real estate, which it doesn't take any cash or credit to actually put deals together. What is wholesaling? I'll just give you the actual definition that I pulled up. I just Googled it, just so I can have something to read out, and then I'll explain it through some actual numbers. Real estate wholesaling is similar to flipping, except that the time frame is much shorter and no repairs are made to the home before the wholesaler sells it. A real estate wholesaler contracts with a home seller, markets the home to his potential buyers, and then assigns the contract to the buyer. Let's do some numbers on that. So in layman's terms, before we get into the numbers, that basically means you place a property on the contract, and that gives you temporary control of the property. You don't own it, but just some temporary control, meaning they can't sell it to anyone else. You place the property on the contract, and then you assign that contract over to a cash buyer. I'm going to explain it just by some simple numbers. I should have done this in the earlier ones, but hey, I'm improving on this, hopefully, and it's getting better, hopefully. All right, let's just use an example here. We'll just say a house in excellent condition would be worth $100,000. Okay, and what I mean by that, when it's fixed up, that's what it would be worth. That's what it would appraise for. For whatever reason, you can get this house on the contract for $30,000. Okay, and well, some people, I guess the question is, why would someone do that? Okay, it could be any number of reasons. Number one, they're going to be motivated to do it. And some of the reasons why, job relocation or just relocation period, loss of income or job, tired of being a landlord, too many repairs, can't afford the taxes on the property, divorce, any number of reasons, medical bills, medical situations where your insurance is not going to cover all of it, kid going off to college, it goes on and on, IRS troubles, it goes on and on. So they're motivated to sell, and they need to sell quickly, so they have to give you a sell quickly price. All right, so we'll say the number is $35,000. So you place that property on the contract with the seller for $30,000. Now you then will advertise that property, we'll say at $45,000. So you market to cash buyers through different methods, even if you had a list or you didn't have a list of cash buyers, for $45,000. One buyer steps forward and said, hey, after viewing the property, he'll pay you $41,000 and close in a few days. So now you will have the opportunity to place the property under contract with the seller. I mean, with the buyer, another contract for $41,000. So now you have contract A for $30,000, contract B for $41,000, which I should have put that on the screen, but I'll have that next week. All right. So whenever you go to close on the property, the seller gets their $30,000, which is what you all agreed upon, and you get the difference, which is $11,000. That is your fee. That is your assignment fee, whether you double close or whatever you do. That is your actual fee. Is this something you should be doing? Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. Student in Memphis, which I actually have a video of this on my YouTube channel, that he advertised on Craigslist that he buys houses. A couple that were moving out of state, I think from Memphis to some part of Texas, they responded. They bought a property as an investment property, but they never got around to repairing the property. So they were moving out of town. They were relocating, so they needed to liquidate the property quickly. So my student placed it under contract. He then advertised the property, and he found a buyer basically within a 27-day period from the time that he placed it under contract till he closed on it. So 27 days, he picked up a check of $6,444.40. If you just do the return on the investment based on the $10 that he invested by with the earnest money deposit to lock up the agreement, the contract, the return on investment, the ROI, is 64,344%. That's a ridiculous return on investment. All right. Another student in Baltimore, which I have a video of this on my channel also, of this interview with him, found properties through a bandit sign campaign. They only put out a few. That's normally not how it works, but you never know. Some action is better than none. So that he basically gave the seller $1, a $1 earnest money deposit. Actually, when he offered the $1, the seller actually started to pull out money. Started to actually pull out $1. Hold on, just 1 second, guys. One of my cameras is losing power. Just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. But so his return on investment, he had to split it with a partner, but the total deal was for $32,000. So he took $16,000. So the actual amount that he received was $16,000, but at the total deal, the return on investment is $3,199,900%. Basically, an infinite rate of return. Okay, so you get the point that there's an opportunity to make some money here. Okay, well, who am I? How did I get started in this deal? I've always been an entrepreneur first, and real estate is just one of the 2 or 3 ways I've ever made any money of any significance. I'm not one of these people that has been an entrepreneur all their life since they were a kid selling lemonade or garbage bags or whatever, homemade cookies or whatever. I'm a late bloomer, I guess, in a sense. I didn't get interested into entrepreneurship until my early 20s when I was in college. And I'm not even sure where the bug came from, but once you get it, it's just so difficult to shake. So with that being said, one of the first things that I ever did was I had the brilliant idea that I was going to take my student loan money, some of it, and buy used cars and become a millionaire. All right. I got an actual dealer's license. I'm not even sure how I figured out how to do that. And I don't know how we figured out a lot of things before the internet, but which that was in the early 90s. And so I got a dealer's license, started going to dealer's auctions. And you would go to an auction, there'll be hundreds of cars out there. A car could be 10, 15 years old, and it'll look brand new off the showroom floor. So the problem with that is, if you're not mechanically inclined or very knowledgeable or have someone working with you, that is, you're going to get hosed, and you're going to get hosed frequently. That was the case for me. So I failed at doing that. The next thing that I did of any significance was I started a mobile car wash with got the idea from after going to Black Beach Weekend in Daytona Beach 1995. One of my brother's friends met us there from Orlando, and he had been doing it a couple of years and was doing six figures with the mobile car wash business. So I couldn't wait till I got back to Birmingham. Bought a baby blue passenger van with the seats that had been removed for $900. So you can only imagine how that looked. Bought a 100-gallon water tank and bought a pressure washer. I was in business. So I started going to barbershops, to hair salons, to places of employment of people I knew. I had a little sign that I would put out once I started working, and my cousin and a childhood friend of mine, we were out there getting it. And that was in the spring and summer of 95. But once it got cold, water and 40-degree temperature, or even 50 or 60-degree temperature doesn't mix, not with me at all. So I knew I couldn't do that. All right, so fast forward, got into some multi-level network marketing things, really never made any money with any of that. The last thing that I was involved in before I got into real estate was prepaid legal, which I think is called Legal Shield now. And what happened was that one of my friends and his now wife were going to school to become realtors. And the guy that normally taught the real estate class wasn't there. And the substitute that replaced him that night, he didn't talk about being a real estate agent. He talked about investing in real estate. And so my friend told me about some of the things that the guy was talking about, which he was talking about creative ways of investing in real estate. So that intrigued me. So I didn't act on it at that time. That was 2002 of October of 2002. So a couple of months later, I was at my mom's house for Christmas, and I was up early one morning, actually December 27th, and she was preparing breakfast for me, biscuits. You know, that was my favorite, biscuit and serve. I didn't need any meat or anything. Not that important, but I just thought I'd bring that up. But anyway, and I was watching TV, and one of Carlton Sheets, I just flipping the channels, and I caught one of his No Money Down commercials with his real estate course. And, you know, I had already seen them over the years. And, you know, like most people, you're like, yeah, right. You know, this stuff doesn't work. And so I said, let me find it from beginning to end, which it didn't tell you anything. It just testimony. People say, I made this much money, I made this much, but it didn't tell you how they made the money. So after watching it from beginning to end, I thought to myself, he can't be lying about all of this. All right. So from there, my mom at that time didn't have internet. So I waited till I got back to Birmingham, and I went to this entrepreneur message board I used to frequent online and asked a question. Does Carlton Sheets program really work? And one person replied, yes, it does, but Ron LeGrand's course is better. So I did a search for Ron's course. And at that time, he was selling his package for $1,500. And I still had a job at that point. That was a lot of money. It's still a lot of money, but it definitely was a lot of money back then. And so I couldn't afford that. So searched on the site a little more. He had a condensed version of the course for $69.99 that was shipping. It was $80. So I received that in cassette tape form. So you know how long ago this was. And it wasn't enough information where you could figure out how to do a deal, but it did let you know that this is something, hey, that I can do. And so I had made up in my mind if I had to get a second job, I would, and to save that $1,500 to get the complete course. So a couple of days later, I thought about eBay, and I did a search for his name, and a couple of his course packages were up for auction. And so I bid it on one of the auctions, and I lost. And the guy that was running the auction, he emailed me and asked me would I like to get a burnt version, a CD copy of the courses. You know, back then I guess you could do that with eBay. And so, which I'm sure they cleaned it up, but back then you could. And so we agreed on $400, and I got the course. It took me about 3 weeks to go through it because it was on wholesaling houses, lease options, retailing, which is buy, fix, and flip, for sale by only, subject to. So it was several different modules in there. So it took me about 3 weeks to go through because I didn't know what I needed to learn. I just thought I needed to learn all of it. I was on information overload. I went from knowing nothing about it to all of these different techniques that the majority of people have never heard of and probably never will. But if I didn't get anything out of it, what really attracted me was wholesaling because it didn't take any money to do it. And plus I can be in and out of the deal. And also what attracted me is on how I can get leads is through just having people to call me if I did an effective job of marketing and advertising. And he mentioned bandit signs. And so I bought some bandit signs. I overpaid for them. I spent $250 on 50 signs, which is drastically overpaying, but I didn't know at the time. I didn't know any better. I got them on a Friday. I put them out on a Sunday morning. And the very first 2 calls I got that next day on Monday were deals. One of them was a lease option opportunity, and the other one was a wholesale opportunity. And so on the lease option opportunity, the guy inherited a property from his mom. It had a mortgage. He didn't live in the house, and the property that he lived in had a mortgage. So he couldn't afford to make both payments. So he owed too much for it to be a wholesale transaction, but it was great for a lease option opportunity, even though it wasn't the greatest of neighborhoods and it needed a few repairs, but it was definitely livable. And plus I was so green, I was happy someone even called me. Okay, so then I explained to him the process of a lease option, that I was going to take over the payments. I was going to charge a tenant. I was going to place a tenant buyer in there that's going to probably take a couple of years to get financed to cash him out. And how I was going to make my money, I was going to charge the tenant a couple $100 or more over the mortgage payment. And I was going to get a down payment, a non-refundable down payment from them. So he was fine with that, as long as he got relieved of the debt. Advertised the property. This lady stepped forward, and she looked at the property, and she was interested. So I was asking $5,000 down. So she gave me a $100 bill sitting in an old Charlie's on, I've been saying Center Point Parkway, but it's Parkway East in Birmingham, to you all that are familiar with it, which is not there anymore. I think it's a Mexican restaurant there now. But anyway, so it needed a few repairs. So the guy that actually owned the property, he was a handyman, which through our conversations, he mentioned. So I was just trying to create a win-win-win for everyone. And I mentioned that he could do the repairs that she wanted on the house. And so he agreed to do it. So I had a friend of mine when I was on the job that I was working, he did mortgages on the side. And so I mentioned that the guy wanted to get his house refinanced, refinance the house that he was living in. So again, I was trying to create a win-win-win. So my friend mentioned to him that I had found a tenant buyer and they had already given me $5,000. He went crazy because he felt that I should have given him at least half of that. And I explained to him, all of that is mine. I'm relieving him of his debt. and keeping his credit from being ruined or the property being taken, a combination or whatever the situation was. So when he met the lady over there to discuss doing the repairs for her, he told the lady that to get off her property, he was going to call the police. Tyrone did not own this property, blah, blah, blah. So the lady called me crying because she felt she had been scammed. And so I told her wherever she was at, I would meet her with her $5,000, even though I had spent $700. I had to come up with that. I wouldn't, had the money to come up, but I did. I don't remember what I did to do it. But anyway, so I met her, gave her money. I called the seller. He and I got into a heated argument. And last words to me that he said, if he ever saw me, it wasn't going to be pretty or something to that effect. So that deal blew up in my face. So most people, you'll be out of this stuff doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Blah, blah, blah. I was fortunate. The other call that I had were two sisters. Their mom left them a property. And like a lot of people, we're not going to sell mom's property. We have too many memories here, blah, blah, blah. And so they got tired of renting out to relatives, tearing up the property, not paying them, and so on, and they decided to sell it. They were motivated to sell. So they called me. We agreed on $20,000. I didn't even know if that was a deal or not. It just sounded like, well, I still was green. I didn't know, but fortunately, that was a good price for me. I advertised the property. This real estate agent called me, said, yeah, I had a client, a cash buyer, that was interested in properties in that area. And so we agreed on $25,000. But, I explained to the realtor up front, I was wholesaling, explained the process. So he said in order to send his buyer that way, he would want half of that. So instead of me making $5,000 on my first deal, I only made $2,500. So I met them in a shopping center parking lot, gave them, he gave me a $500 earnest manager check. Next 10 days, we closed on it. Boom, that was my first deal, March 5th, 2003. I made $2,500. Not a lot of money, but it was a lot of money for me. It might as well have been $250,000 because I had failed at so many businesses before that and so many things I thought were going to be just great ideas, but this actually worked. And I like to go through that because it was easy for me, but there were some challenges there. When I say easy, it's easier than what it may be for others. And I've had students that close even quicker than that. But, that's going to vary from just a lot of factors that go into being able to put deals together that fast. So I'm from a small town. I'm no smarter than you are. Well, what may make me a little different is that I take action. I'm not afraid to do it. If I think I got the resources and I have a general understanding on what I'm doing, I'm all in. But what I've discovered is that obviously there's a hard way of doing this and there's a more simple way of doing it. I hate to use the word easy, but there's a more simple way of doing this. Like many of you think you need tons of money. Real estate, as entrepreneur-minded as I was, real estate wasn't even a consideration because I thought you needed tons of money to actually do deals. And I soon found out that you don't. But most people think they have to have a real estate license. I don't tell people not to get one, but I let them know that you don't need one because I still don't have one. I really have never even considered it. Wait until you figure out everything totally. I was full of information, but everything was so vague with me. You're not going to get it all. Some of it just going to come from flat out trial and error. It just is. It just is. If you try to think you're going to know everything before you get started, because some stuff just going to come up that you can't be trained for. Now, of course, not to get on my soapbox with my training or whatever, I'm more or less the coaching. That's why I can fill in holes for you because I can train you all day, but some stuff is going to come up and just from experience, you'll just know how to handle it. I'm not a book reader, but a lot of people like to read books. Most books, they're just upsells. I'm not hating on them, but they're just art. Most of you can agree with that. They're just vague. And some people may be more, maybe if we're already familiar with it or whatever and can figure it out. But in most cases, they're just upsells. All right. Now, I had a job, before when I started doing this, I didn't hate my job. I just wanted more. Now, I don't know what your situation may be, but that was mine. I didn't hate it, but I just wanted more. Taking pointless business classes in college, that's me. I'm the poster boy for that. I ended up with a history degree, a business administration minor. Long story on that. I got so deep in the business classes and I wasn't really doing that well. When I see my advisor, she said, "Hey, all your electives are in history. Why don't you pursue a history degree? You're going to finish in a year and a half." I said, "Sign me up." So it was more important with me. I wouldn't give anything for my college years because it helped me grow up as a man and just experience a lot of stuff that I would have never experienced coming from the small town that I came from. But as far as what it's done for me, as far as providing income, very little, just very little. But again, I wouldn't give anything for it. But it's just the way the educational system is set up, it teaches you how to go get a job in most universities, not how to create your own opportunities or whatever. So going to some seminars, even after I was doing deals, I was going to seminars. Now I wasn't ever signing up, because I was just looking for another way to find deals. I understand the process. Like, again, I was already doing deals, but I hadn't went to a seminar in probably 10 years at least, if not longer. But again, I was just going to see what are they doing different than I'm doing. I found out they really wasn't doing anything more different than I was doing. But again, and then the last bullet point here, giving myself information overload. A lot of you can speak to that. That was my situation. But again, I took action. Wholesaling stuck to me out of all the information and techniques that I learned. Again, don't let me forget about the 2 free courses. We're going to go ahead and get into what you're here for tonight, is how to wholesale apartments with no cash or credit. This is different. The same once you get a buyer and seller in place, but how you go about it, a lot of it is different than houses. And so we're going to get into some of the things on what it's all about. Why wholesale apartments? Well, the simple question is why not? And most of the time that just comes from most people not understanding what to do in the sense of how to find a deal, what makes a deal, how to evaluate it, where does the money come from, what about the large earnest money deposits that could be a problem, and so on. So that creates some people being afraid and intimidated with just the sheer numbers. Now, apartments are all over the board, similar to houses, in the sense that you can have a 7-unit building and they may only want 80 grand for it, just depending on what part of town, the condition, how many are rented or whatever. But then it could get ridiculous. It could be an apartment building that's 7 units, and depending on what part of the country you're in, and that building may be a $400,000 or $500,000 building or even more. So that's going to be relative to the market that you're dealing in, and along with other factors. But why wholesale apartments? Like with any of this, number one, you're in it for the money. All right. And what it can provide as far as financial freedom for you and options that it can provide. Another thing is that with apartments, as I'll go through this, the biggest thing that I like is that there's no competition in the sense, and if you compare it to houses, because most people don't understand it. No, most people don't know what process they need to go through to actually get to a check. So I'm going to go through some of that. So let's compare the two, houses versus apartments. All right. As I said, it's low competition. Everybody and their mama has videos, and I guess that includes me, on how to wholesale houses on YouTube and other places, but mainly YouTube. It's very little information out there on apartment buildings and multifamily. So you're going to have low competition in the sense that you'll send a letter to an actual property owner or make a call to a property owner, and you're the only one that has called them out of the blue asking to sell their property. That's enough in itself to consider looking into wholesaling apartments just by itself, just the low competition. easier to do virtually. A lot of people want to do houses virtually or whatever. I always encourage my students to start in your backyard first, as far as trying to wholesale houses, because there's several factors there that it just makes it so difficult to do it if you're not there. The main thing is keeping the seller and the buyer apart from each other. Now, if you have someone on the ground in a different market that you can trust, then you can accomplish that with ease. But the main thing is just keeping the seller, because it's rare on houses that a buyer, especially most buyers, are going to be local, and the seller is going to be local on houses. It's going to be rare that they don't want to see the property before they buy it. Whereas with apartments, it's a possibility that they never visit the property. That's just the way it is. But the main thing with houses, that's the most difficult, keeping the seller and the buyer and you being closed out of the deal, even if you have a contract, because the seller could literally just wait you out to the contract's end and just delay. Now, obviously, there's courts of law that you can sue for anything, but I'm just telling you the difficulty, but it costs you money to do that. So, all right, so nationwide buyers, basically what I'm talking about, which the building that I advertised earlier in this webinar, I doubt that we probably find a buyer in that market. We will probably end up having a buyer that's outside of that actual market. Whereas with houses, again, you can have out-of-town buyers, because I've had them, and I'm sure some of the people that have done deals on the call may have had them. But normally your buyer will come from a local, from local to the actual property. Whereas with multifamily, especially the larger the property is, the more extended, the more nationwide that you can go as far as looking for buyers. If it's just a 4-unit, 5-unit, or so on, then normally that may come local. But again, it just depends. If it's in South Florida and in X neighborhood, yeah, it still could attract buyers nationwide, more so than a house in that same neighborhood if it was for rent income. So that's another thing that makes it more attractive, nationwide buyers, similar to triple net, with triple net really properties, which that's what the Flip This Building, but I'm not getting off track here, but you really are dealing with nationwide buyers for the most part on pretty much any deal if it has a national tenant, but not to get sidetracked. All right, so obviously bigger paydays. Now, when you start talking about apartments, again, they're all over the place. Like that's 7-unit, $70,000 property. Just say if it was rented and it was in decent condition, it may be worth $200,000. But you can make 15, 20 on it. Whereas if it's in a different market and you can get it's worth 500 with, but you can get it for 300, you may be able to make 75, 80 grand on it. So what you can make is all over the board. But the great thing about it is just because that potential to make an extreme amount of money is a great reason, and definitely why I do it, on why I target apartments. Outside of low competition, you can do it virtually, dealing with nationwide buyers, bigger paydays. All right, so the process, knowing what's a deal. All right, that's just like with houses, that's a huge part of it. Now, the difference with apartments are because it's an income producing property, and most of your buyers, they're not buying to resell. And even if they are, they still normally on a 12-month to a minimum of 12 months. But a lot of times they'll do a 2 to 3 year plan, and just to buy a property with some value add, get it rented, get it renovated, and they flip it. Now, that does happen, but it's not like a house you buy and hope to flip it within 60 to 90 days. Whereas with apartments, most of the time, the buyers are looking to hold a property because they're looking for the income that it will produce. All right, so knowing what's a deal obviously is important, but the reason I bring that up is that whereas with houses, you have to have them deeply discounted, with apartment building, it doesn't work that same because it's so income driven that you don't have to have a property just deeply discounted to make a nice payday. So knowing what's a deal is very important, and we'll get into some of the factors on that. But knowing what's a deal, like with any real estate deal, knowing what's a deal and what's not a deal. All right, so how to locate these deals. All right. Now, locating apartment deals, bandit signs are not going to get it. Trust me, I tried it. Not one call put out. I don't know how many I ordered that time, but I learned that I think at least 100. Not one call, and they stayed up a good amount of time. Not one call. Bandit signs are not going to get it, at least from my experience. Maybe you have to do it longer, but at least from my experience, bandit signs didn't work. The signs actually said, "We buy apartment buildings, phone number, no calls." Now, direct mail works really well. It actually works better on apartments from my experience, even with houses, because as I said, whereas with people with houses, they may be getting bombarded with letters, from all different angles. Whereas with apartments, it's less likely that someone reaches out and say, "Hey, I want to buy your apartment building." All right. Now, another way of locating deals is speaking with property managers. And let me back up. Which I'll get to that in a second, but off market is very important when you're wholesaling apartment buildings. It can be done on a listed property, but it's better for it to be off market. So I just want to bring that up. It makes it easier. You can do both, but it makes it easier. Okay, so property management companies, you can contact them and see if they have a client that's ready to sell. It may not be advertised for sale, but they know. Now, you may have to give them some incentive to make that happen, or at least put that in motion as far as you being interested in buying the property. But property management companies is another target. Obviously, you could contact realtors. You could contact agents nationwide and see if they have anything off the market. Obviously, if they have something listed, they're going to be ready to shove that in your face. So you have to make a judgment call. Again, it can be done, but it's just a few things that you just have to know how to do. I normally don't recommend it to my students to go that route because it can be so discouraging when you have a listed property, because wholesaling, the reason that it'll work effectively and quickly is because you have control. Whenever you target properties that are already advertised, you lose some of that control. Again, I'm not saying that you can't do deals like that. It just makes it more difficult, in my opinion, in my experience. All right, now evaluating the deal, which is simpler than knowing what is a deal, but you have to, even if you have an opportunity to see if you have a deal or not, you have to know how to evaluate a deal. Apartment buildings, multifamily, are purchased in two ways, and maybe in a combination of these. It's based on the cap rate and per door. All right, the cap rate is short for capitalization rate. Think of it in terms of what you will get a return on your money, your investment. If you put money in a bank, is you're going to get 1%, 2%. All right. So for most, I don't know, I'm not going to say most, but for a lot of apartment owners, people that pursue those, they're just simply looking for the return on their money, on what they have invested in the deal. So 7, 8, 10. Obviously, they can get 15%. That's just look at it as interest. That's the money that you would get a return on. So capitalization work, just do a little homework on it. So that's what they're looking on, the return on their investment. So depending on the market that you're in, if you're in, we'll just say in most normal markets, if an investor can get well, now obviously you're going to have, and I should have put this in here. I forgot to do it. But you're going to have different grades of properties. You're going to have an A, B, C, D. All right. Obviously, you know what a D property is. That's going to be in the quote unquote rougher areas or the hood. All right. A properties are going to be in the best part of town, and the apartments exist. So now B and C, obviously C is closer to D, B is closer to A. So hopefully I explained that. And sometimes it matters on what year the property was built and all that stuff to determine the grade of the property. But just as a quick definition, obviously, the D's are the little rougher areas or the hood, or some people may call them war zone. Those are going to normally be D properties. The A property is going to be the best part of your market, and apartments exist. Whereas B's and C's, you can just figure out which direction you're going in. So that's a part of it too. So the cap rate, if you're in an A part of town, the cap rate may be only 4 or 5%, especially depending on what city you're in, or it may be 6 or 7%. Whereas with a D property, normally they're going to be over 10%, sometimes 15, 20%. So, and then B and C, they'll just fit in somewhere in there depending on the market. I had to explain that because that the A, B, C, and D factors in greatly on what cap rate an investor is expecting on a particular property. Okay, so on the per door, now you'll have most of the investors don't operate like this, but you'll have some that like to buy per door, and they'll base that on what other properties sold for in the area, and they compare, just like similar to a house and comps on a house. So they may say it may be a 100-unit building, and recent sales show that they sold for $15,000 per door. So if my math is correct, what is that? 100 times, what is that? Is that what is that? Is that 10? Is that 1.5 million or 15 million? Whatever it is, I don't have my math, but that's what the price of the property would be. Let me do one that's easy. A 10-unit building at $15,000 a door is $150,000. Let me do one of these so you can get the math. So they may base it on that versus the cap rate. And then some people may do a combination of both before they factor and make a decision on whether this is going to be something they want to invest in or not. So, all right, so let's get into the cap rate and all that stuff, because it's so important on understanding that. How do you derive a cap rate? I wish I would have put some numbers here, but we're too late now. But how do you derive a cap rate? So you have the NOI, and if you see that at the bottom of this list here, net operating income. And the NOI is divided by price to give you the cap rate. That'll give you the percentage that we're talking about. So normally the NOI is smaller than the price. So if you had an NOI, we'll just say of $100,000, and the price was $1 million. So and the price was $1 million. So the cap rate would be 10%. I just did some easy math there, so I know that's 10%. All right, so how do you come up with the NOI? So you take the gross income, which is normally rents, and maybe include a laundry room or something like that, or a snack machine. But you take the gross income annually and subtract the gross expenses annually. So the gross expenses could be taxes, insurance, management fee. I guess you could do improvements and repairs. Sometimes people take that out when they're evaluating. Garbage pickup. Are they paying part of the water or any of the utilities? So administration fees, all of that stuff can add up to expense. So you subtract that from the income, and that gives you the NOI, the net operating income. So once you have the net operating income on a property, and you know the price, then you can determine the cap rate. Now, you can go back and watch this video again. I'll have the full version up of this webinar. And then a couple of days later or whatever, I have the short version. So you can go back and go through this, and you can do your own due diligence on that. But this is very important in understanding that cap rate and how you get to that point. All right, so negotiating. Obviously, someone can pay cash for it. They can have a loan, and then you can do owner financing. What you'll find with commercials and or obviously multifamily, that a lot of owners will be interested in owner financing, sometimes with nothing down, if you can find the right deal and structure it the right way to their benefit. Because a lot of times they're going to sell the property for whatever reason, but if they can owner finance it, they can delay the taxes on it because they haven't officially sold it, because you're making payments on it. Well, now it's a cash deal, that speaks for itself. If it's a loan, that's a process, so now you have a lender involved, and they have to approve certain things. Obviously, the buyer has to qualify for that lender and so on. So your negotiating techniques, when you're dealing with cash, that's one thing. And someone wants to give you a price, you accept that. Now, if you're going to set up the deal initially with owner financing, you have to make sure that you set up the owner financing where you're going to get paid up front. The way I normally like to do it, We may negotiate a deal where the price of the property, we'll just use some easy numbers here, is $100,000, and he wants 10% down, so that's 10 grand. So I may advertise the property and we'll just say 125,000. And I may, but in order for me to get paid, I need to get paid out of that down payment. So I need to make up the difference. So I may say the down payment is $25,000. So in order to get back down to the 100, and I keep 15 of that, and the seller gets his 10, we get back down to the 100 if I'm a math. Just trying to do that off the top of my head. I may be a little wrong there, but so that's where I do it. Now, there's some other creative ways to do it, but I'm going to increase the down payment and the price in order for me to get paid if some owner financing is available, which you always, if that's an option, whenever you're negotiating and the price is not ridiculous, by any means, because people will pay more if they can get into a property via, buyers is what I'm referring to. If they can get into a property via owner financing, and obviously, the down payment would factor in the terms in the sense of interest rate, how long, and all of those factors. I've had some older owners, they don't even care about the interest rate. They just want a shorter term. So a lot of times people do some owner financing, they can refi and cash out with a traditional loan from a lender, within a 2 to 3 or less than 5 years time frame. So there's just a lot of options there, which that helps you with negotiating your deal, whether you're dealing with cash, or you think you're going to deal with a buyer that needs a loan, or if you can get owner financing in place, and then you assign the owner financing if you do a good job of that. All right, contract without EMD up front. Now, I have techniques that I use to do that. I mentioned that because I'm just letting you know it's possible to do it. And it's all just like with anything else. Most won't, especially with real estate, but enough will. Most won't, but enough will to get you paid and change your financial situation. All right, now once you have it under contract, now you need to locate buyers. All right, obviously the simple thing to do is just simply advertise the property. And if I advertise on Craigslist or even put signs out in the market or whatever, I never include the address on any of my videos. Like on any of my YouTube videos, or if I post a listing on Craigslist, I'll make it simple for them to obtain the address with the information that they'll want, because once buyers start to respond to you, then the first thing they're going to want to see is the rent rolls and the last couple of years of financials, if not more. And what I mean by financials, they want to see the profit and loss statements. They want to see what the property has been doing over the last couple of years. And the reason they want to see the rent rolls, which the rent rolls are basically, and I should have put those phrases in here, but I can explain them though. They want to see the rent rolls because that identifies, it identifies the units, and you have what they call unit mix, which simply means how many 3 bedrooms, how many 2 bedrooms, how many ones. And so they call that unit mix. But the rent rolls identify the unit, if it's vacant or occupied. If it's occupied, what they're paying, is there a deposit on file for that particular tenant, and how much time do they have on their lease, whether they're on month to month or whatever the situation. All right, so that's important to investors or potential buyer, is the rent rolls. As I said, the profit and loss statement, that just tells you how much money is coming in and what's going out. That helps to determine the NOI, obviously, which gives you the cap rate. All right, as I mentioned before, off market versus listed. Now, you could do both. I just prefer off market because it just gives you more control. All right. And what I mean by that, if a property is already being advertised, and depending on who you're dealing with, if that property is already being advertised, there's a strong possibility once the buyer does his due diligence and just simply Googles the address, whoever has that property advertised, whether it's a listing or if it's the owner or whoever, there's a strong possibility they can find that particular listing and contact them, and it could possibly blow up your deal. So now closing the deal. Okay, so now assuming that you have your seller, assuming you have your buyer. Now, just like with houses, as I mentioned before, a lot of times that's dictated by your buyer. The only thing you want to know is who's handling the closing and putting the closing together, and you give instructions from there because you have both contracts in place. If there are any issues with you getting paid via an assignment fee, depending on the deal, there are other ways to go about it. Normally, if a buyer's gotten that far, he wants a deal, they'll work with you. And the main reason is that they want more deals. That's just the way it is. Again, anything can blow up in your face, but trust me, once it gets to that point, everybody is getting what they wanted out of the deal, and you move forward. All right, so that ends how to wholesale apartment. So I want to just get into some numbers here. Most people are here because they want to change the situation. I just want to get into some numbers on what type of money can be made wholesaling real estate, mainly houses. So 3 to 5 deals per month will change most people's situation, their financial situation, and change it quickly. To accomplish that, just from my experience, you must talk to 3 to 5 sellers per day through your marketing efforts or through just out there grinding, just contacting landlords for sale by owner, or even real estate agents. But I like to title myself, in my mind, as a marketer more so than a wholesaler/investor. My job is to get up every day and let people know I exist, that I want to buy real estate. That's it. If I do an effective job of that, I can eat well, and people that I care about can eat well, and you can do the same. So and we're talking about houses here. Now, we're not talking about apartments here because these numbers will be a lot larger. But with a house, if you did 1 deal per month and you average $5,000 to $7,000 per deal, which is a very conservative number, and that's going to at least be the bare minimums for most markets. And a lot of other markets, that number is double that and even more. But we're just going to go with the bare minimums here. So $5,000 to $7,000 per deal. That's 12 deals per year over a 12-month period. That's $60,000 to $84,000 per year. Let's just go up to 2 deals per month. $5,000 to $7,000 per deal, 24 in a year. That's $120,000 to $168,000 per year. For most people, that's a game changer. The 60 to 84 is a game changer for. So let's get a little bit more ambitious. 5 deals per month. That's 5 to 7 deals per 5 to 7,000 per deal. That's 60 in a year. That's $300,000 to $420,000 per month. As I always say, now they know your name at the bank. Now we're going to get into the question and answer period of the situation of the flipping. Don't let me forget about the 2 free courses that I'll give away. But don't forget about the 200 free videos I have on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. Turn on the notifications so you can get the alerts when I upload new videos to YouTube, along with when I go live on YouTube. All right. Text the word contract to 313131 if you want a free copy of the contract that I've used for more than 14 years to wholesale houses with. Don't text me. Text the number 313131. No area code is needed. Text those 6 numbers, those 6 digits, to and include the word contract and send, and you'll get instructions from there. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram, flipman.net. You can follow me on Twitter, TheFlipman. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications. If you need proof of funds, you're going to deal with real estate agents. It's the only way they're going to take you serious. RealPOF.com. That's RealPOF.com. I use it. Go to the site, submit your phone number, next page. You're going to listen to Keith Yackett, go into what's offered there. Submit your name and email. Boom. You'll see what's going on there. All right, privatemoneylist.net. It speaks for itself. 400 private money lenders, 40,000 cash buyers list. Boom. All right, so let's get back to the question and answer period. All right. I'm going to stop sharing here, and then I'm going to go here. And so now, if you asked a question earlier, obviously I was going through everything. So just re-ask the question. So let me start here. Someone asks, how many apartments have you flipped in a 6-month period? I've been doing apartments since '06. I didn't start out that way. So that's a good question. I have to think about that. Um, I've been doing them 10 years, so I'm not even sure. Um, Good question. I have to think about it. Someone said I'm lost. Are you still on page 25? We're beyond that now, so I'm sorry. Not sure about the name Valerie. All right. Earnest money deposit. Um, I'm not sure what the question is there. Can you go into more detail about the proof of funds? Because when I tried, it seemed like it just sent me to a video. Yeah, that's what it did. You have to it send you to a video. The guy that offers the service keeps yakking. Just submit your name and phone number. It's going to tell you. Well, he's going to explain to you exactly what it is. I used both the approval funds and the private money list. So just listen to the video. He's going to go into great detail about it. I don't have any questions. I don't have any questions, but a comment. I just want to say that these said webinar, but I'm gonna say flipinar, are very informative, and I learn a lot listening and watching your YouTube videos. Thank you, Laverne Anthony, I think is the name. Someone says, please explain NOI again. It means net operating income. Camellia, think of it in terms of you know what you make, the income, and you subtract the expenses. That's all it is. Or we'll just use just some simple math here. If you made $50,000 in sales, but your expenses to attain those sales were, we'll just say $30,000, then your net operating income would be $20,000. In terms of rent, say you're collecting over the course of a year, you collected $50,000 in rent total, and your expenses were $30,000. That leaves $20,000. The $20,000 will be your net operating income. All right. Someone said, what should I have in place before getting coaching? Nothing but a willingness to get going in action, because you can go through my information in a few hours. There's no fluff there. There's no fluff. I tell you exactly what to do. And once you go through the actual training, then we're ready to get you in motion. Whether you're using free methods or you're creating a marketing campaign, or a combination of both, which I highly recommend. All right, it says Tanji Lee, working with little to no funds for marketing. Can a motivated person still contact potential sellers via Craigslist? Well, Tanja, yeah, you could do that, but not in the sense that you think. Now, you have to have thick skin if you're going to do it that way, because you're going to get a lot of no's. I don't care what form of marketing or farming you do as far as trying to find leads. You got to have thick skin and understand that the majority of people that you talk to, they're not going to be deals. That's just the way it is. So to answer your question, yes, but I wouldn't target the for sale by owner section as much as I would target people that are trying to rent properties out. Landlords, you're targeting possibly tired landlords. And whenever you contact them, you ask them if the property is still available, and whether it is or not, you let them know that you're interested. Well, you simply ask them a question: would they be interested in selling the property? And you go from there. If they are, fine. You take the information. If they're not, you want to always ask them: do they have any other properties that they would be interested in selling? So you can do that through any places online that you see that are have listings from landlords. Now you'll have property management companies that have listings there along with real estate agents that are representing the actual owner. You know, your goal is you can deal with them, but it's going to be more difficult to find deals that way because they, you know, you're basically taking a property from under their management, which is money. So it may be a little bit more difficult to do it that way, but um, so your goal is to talk to private owners. Another thing you could do is target for rent signs. You know, just the generic red and white signs or the white and black signs that say for rent. You know, normally those are private owners, and you know, same thing. You call them, see if they're interested in selling. All right. Next question. All right, for apartment buildings, would the buyer or the due diligence, would the buyer do due diligence before signing? Some will, some won't. Some will sign and then they'll have a due diligence period in the contract, and that's where they'll do their due diligence. So it'll just depend on the actual buyer whether they want to to perform due diligence before they enter into an agreement or not. Um, All right. Someone says, when you put a property under contract that has a tenant, what is the best way to get the seller for inspection? That's going to vary, man, because sometimes a seller won't want the tenant disturbed at all, and then sometimes they don't care. They'll just go in and knock on the door and boom, hey, we come to look at the property. So that's going to vary. So if it's a situation, in my experience and what I've done in the past, if it's a situation where I can't show the property, it has to be even cheaper because my buyer's not going to be able to see it either. So he's going to have to make a judgment call. Hey, I want this property without seeing the inside of it. Obviously, it's somewhat livable if someone's living there. So it's going to have to be even cheaper if that's the situation. But if you can view the property, and normally if I get inside of a property, I'm going to video it. So that'll eliminate a lot of in and out on it or whatever. So, but it can be done, but it's just going to depend on what the seller and what his expectations are on you being able to view the property while you have it under contract. All right. Someone says, have you ever experienced complaints from bandit signs? I just began marketing using signs and have gotten a few complaint calls. Oh yeah. It's not over the 14-year period. Many bandit signs I've put out, I've gotten probably less than 10 complaints over that time frame. Now, it also depends on, are you putting them in areas where they already exist? Or are you trying to put them in areas where you think you want to live in the suburban areas? That's the way most markets are set up. That matters. You know, bandit signs are not new. Now, if you go, I don't know what city you're in, but if you scour your entire city, and sometimes you have to get out, well, not sometimes, you got to get outside of your comfort zone and you don't see any bandit signs, then yeah, that may be an issue of putting them out. But you still can get outside of the city limits and get out into the county. You have to be creative. You know, you just have to be creative. I don't know what else to tell you that. So, but the first thing is, do they exist anywhere in your market? If they do, that's probably where you're going to have to place them also. I know everybody wants to put them where theirs are the only one in a particular area, but a lot of times that's not an option. It's just not. Someone says, is there somewhere online where I can download your one-page contract? Well, I gave the information about the text option, but you can go to my site, flipman.net, enter your phone name and phone number, and it'll give you an option there. Flipman.net, as you saw on the screen. Do you buy and hold or fix and flip? I've done it all. In the mode that I'm in right now, just straight wholesaling, but I've done both. The way to true wealth in real estate, though, you got to buy and hold. That cash flow that's coming in, whether you know you're sick or whatever, that's always should be someone's goal at some point. I'm weird that way, so don't go by what I do in that sense. Um, I'm just reading this before I read it out. All right. Someone said, I went to look at a property yesterday that was in such bad condition. I don't think anyone would want to buy it. Should I even make uh, I guess, offer to the seller, or not even waste my time with the seller? I'm not interested in a lowball offer. Um, I'm assuming you're saying the seller's not interested in a lowball offer. Now it depends on what type of neighborhood it is. You know, what else is around? Is it the only house that looks that way in that area? There's several factors that go into that. So my best deals have been houses that have just been horrible, but it was the zip code, the street that it was on, and hey, cha-ching. You can't get it. You can't get too caught up in that. Those are several factors that go into that. All right. So hi, Ty. It says, where have you had the most success in your market? In the war zones, working class, or upper class area? Well, overall in the war zones, but it's not like that now. I sort of have to be in the lower middle class or middle class. And obviously, if I can get something in the upper middle class, that's a home run, but those are harder to come by. Um, what are the steps in negotiating deals with sellers? Someone said price. Now, I'm not a haggler, so I just have a same steps that I always use. My goal is always to get the seller to give me their least amount. Versus me trying to give them an offer and making them accept it or convincing them to accept it. But that's just me. But to answer your question, and it's in my training. I think I have it out there somewhere, so it's not like it's a secret. But I always ask the question, that I was trained to do and still use it 14 years later, paying all cash and closing quickly. What's the least amount you'll accept? Wait on the response, regardless of what they say. You always ask, is that the best you can do? Now, sometimes sellers won't give you a price. Make me an offer. So if I'm forced into making an offer, I'm going to make an offer that I'm so embarrassed about. I'm normally going to be low enough. Now, I'm not expecting them to accept it, and sometimes they may even hang up on you. They were not motivated anyway. But if they say, no, I can't take that, my follow-up question will be, well, how close can you come to that amount? Again, my goal is to find out what their lowest amount is. Now, if that's a number I can work with, we move forward. If it isn't, I thank them for their time. Let them know if anything changes, please give me a call back. Sometimes they call back, maybe 6 months later. But that's my normal process of negotiating with houses. Have you ever advertised a property online like Craigslist that you don't have under contract just to see if anybody? Yeah, I do that all the time. Because I may not be sure if there's any interest in a property at the price that I have. Yeah, I do that all the time. But I won't give them the address or anything. I'll just give an area or whatever, maybe a video of the property or something like that. So yeah, I've done that. I do it all the time. I still do it. I'll put a property out there, or I may even text some buyers that I trust and see if they would be interested, and I'll negotiate my deal from there. So yeah, to answer your question. Someone says, I have a 4 unit under contract for a price I feel is great and gotten a lot of inquiries, but the bad part is that it hasn't sold yet. Any suggestions? Well, if you get an action on it, I don't know how long you've had it under contract, but B Brown. But if you're getting calls on it, that's really the only thing you can do, man, unless you're just asking too much. If you're not getting any offers on it, it may not be cheap enough. If that's simple. That's your market will tell you, if you're in the right ballpark or whatever. So it may not be cheap enough. Someone says, can you wholesale in a rural area, i.e., on a farm type homes? Anything could be wholesale, but it all boils down to with anything else as far as commerce is supply and demand. You know, what type of demand, meaning what type of how many buyers are actually be interested in that property. But yeah, it can be wholesale, but you know how many buyers will want the property. But in a rural area, sometimes those properties can move fast because a lot of properties don't come up for sale in those areas. And you have people that want to invest there just like anywhere else. So opportunity could exist there. You know, it just depends, but most definitely it can happen. It just obviously it's a numbers game. You know, more people, more buyers. Yeah, someone said just placing an ad on Craigslist without an actual house is a ghost ad. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. But I was just saying I may have a property that I'm actually prospecting, and not just I don't have anything in the pipeline at all. It may be an actual property that I'm prospecting, and I decide to advertise it a little bit to see what type of interest is there. So that's what I meant, but I knew what he meant also, the ghost ad. All right, someone says, how many people should a beginner call or email to reach out to make a presence? Well, if you can accomplish a goal of three, you talk to actual three property owners per day versus a call or email or whatever, and you actually get a communication back, whether it's an email or a call, oh, you'll do deals, you know, but it takes a lot of patience to do it that way. You know, again, set a goal, three people a day, five a day, you know, those will turn into deals, but it takes a lot of persistency and patience to do it that way. Um, I don't know if any of you all watched the movie The Founder, which is about Ray Kroc, you know, the guy that uh, he didn't create McDonald's. It was already in existence. He just took it and made it better through some tech to some techniques that might not everybody may not agree with it, but uh, persistency what was his thing was he was a salesperson, but I totally agree. It's being persistent, whatever you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So obviously you want results, but you got to be persistent. Someone says when you send out a mail campaign, who do you use? Do you mean who sends the mail campaign out, or I do it myself? If that's what you mean, I do it myself. All right, I'm gonna take one more question here, if one comes up, and then we'll give away the free courses. All right, no more questions. So I'm going to say goodbye to Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I really appreciate the people that are on. Tell a friend or family member. I'll try to do this again next week. Had to rig it up. You know, the technology is not there yet to do it where I can have all of this going at once. But we'll work with it. So I appreciate everyone on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Hold on a second here, enemy. I'm going to give away these free courses. Let me end these guys. Well, YouTube is still going to be with us, so it doesn't matter. All right, so all right, so I ended them. All right, so let's get to it. Program giveaway. I'm gonna do it. 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 I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. Like Harpo. Let's see here. All right, so how are we gonna do? Okay. All right. Again, I appreciate everyone that comes out every week. I really do. Keeps me going on doing this. Okay, on the phone number side of the game, we're going to go with, let's see what we got. All right, phone number is, let me make sure I jot this down here. Hold on. Already then disappeared on me. The last 7 numbers are 897 4144. So text me from that number to 205-492-3425, 205-492-3425. If you don't remember it, just simply go to any of my videos on YouTube. You'll see it, or go to my site, flipman.net. But 205-492-3425. And on the chat side of the game, let me see here. All right. First initial is, well, I guess people see the name here. So on the chat deal. So it spits out Shamika Dunbar. So text me, Shamika Dunbar, at 205-492-3425. 205-492-3425. Course winners 0202, and that's a wrap. Really appreciate it, guys. Again, join us next week. Tell friends, family members. Increase your chance of winning. But I really appreciate everyone coming out, and I'll see you on the flip side.